Let's go back to the 23rd of July 2025 where I made a video on this very YouTube channel talking about why I believe Walsall FC could and maybe possibly will be relegated this season. 11 games into the League 2 campaign, they currently sit top of the table. Let's find out today why I got it all so wrong. Now obviously we go to the back end of last season where Walsall collapsed. They were top of the table, like 15 points clear come January. They went to Valley Parade and were demolished 3-0 by Bradford City. Fast forward a couple of months, they went on a horrible losing run. They actually won on the final day, which meant Bradford City had to beat Fleetwood to achieve promotion. We obviously scored at that 96th minute goal. That obviously sent us up. Walsall went to the playoffs to beat informed Chesterfield in the semi-final and eventually lost to AFC Wimbledon in the final. It meant another season in League 2 for Matt Sadler's side. The Walsall board decided to stick with Sadler after only a couple of months ago he signed a new 3.5-year contract, I believe, with the football club, so they had no other real choice. And with the toxicity surrounding Sadler from last campaign, the big turnover of players, the amount of key assets they lost from last campaign, I thought they were going to carry on that poor momentum into this season, but I've got to hold my hands up. I was completely wrong as of right now. Yes, it's still just a positive start. We're only at the beginning of October, and I don't need to tell Walsall fans that a season is not won after 10, 20, 30, or even 45 matches. You will not win promotion just because you're in the top 3 after 45 games, as Walsall fully well know. But I do think it is looking a little bit likely, you could say, that Walsall are not quite going to be in that relegation battle that I once thought a couple of months ago. Now what is the reason for that? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Pretty much everything that I said in that video has turned out to be factually incorrect. Matt Sadler has turned back into one of the best managers in this division. We'll go through the team lineup as well, a few of their signings that I thought wouldn't work out, but this game specifically I was very impressed with Walsall. Obviously they were 1-0 down at half time, made a couple of changes at the break, and eventually Walsall went on to win the match. Now we look at the first half from this game, which was largely dominated by Bristol Rovers. Walsall didn't really get much of a sniff in that first half. Only 0.07 XG created, only 29% of the ball, one shot, not on target. Bristol Rovers certainly did a job on the Saddlers in that first half. I would also like to point out, as you can tell, I'm very ill, very sore throat at the moment. But we then go to them half-time changes that Matt Sadler did. He was proactive at the break, and look at the second half. It was the complete opposite. Total domination from Walsall. Again, they were happy to let the opposition have the ball. They only had 2 shots on target, but they restricted Bristol Rovers to not a single shot in the entirety of the second half, and Matt Sadler deserves a lot of credit for that, because them changes at the break I think were a tactical switch. I could be wrong, let me know down below, but I'm pretty sure that did see something change. I think Comley for Warrington is like for like, but I'm pretty sure Courtney Clark is a defender. He is, so there must have been some kind of a tweak in the system or how they were playing, and obviously it went on to work in the second half. You go into the lineup that Walsall played with, that back 3 is practically entirely new. I know Evan Weir was there last campaign, but he didn't really play that much because of how well Taylor Allen did. Aidan Flint, I thought he was well past it. I didn't see him succeeding at Walsall, but he looks to be everything that we're missing from last campaign. He's that experience at the back, and I think what I've certainly noticed as a Bradford City fan, the gap from League 2 to League 1 is a lot bigger than what I thought. We've practically had an entire new squad built over the summer, and that's obviously why we couldn't sit second in the League 1 table after 11 matches. And Aidan Flint last season was awful for Mansfield, but the season before that he was absolutely excellent, and this season back in League 2 and back absolutely thriving in this Matt Sadler system. You look going forward, I didn't think the likes of Jamil Matt and Levi Amanchi had enough goals in them. Well, they're not starting this season. Presley has scored a couple of goals. I think he's got 4 goals and 1 assist so far this campaign. Daniel Kanu came in as well from Charlton following Johnny Stuttle's injury. He was then sent back to Bournemouth. That midfield is very fresh as well. There's no Ryan Sturks in there, for example, from last campaign. There's no Liam Gordon at left wing back as well. It is a practically refreshed squad, and I did think that was needed at Walsall, but I didn't quite think they'd brought in the quality of what was required. But again, I have been proven wrong, and I am always more than happy to hold my hands up when I am proven wrong, which is clearly the case on this occasion. I do think it's also quite funny that the likes of Ellis Harrison and Alfie Chang lined up for Bristol Rovers in this game, and obviously 2 of them players players were part of that Walsall bottle from last campaign. But if you need any confirmation, obviously the Saddlers do currently sit top of the League 2 table. If I just slightly move this over so you can see their most recent form. But Walsall obviously absolutely flying so far this campaign, top of the table. There is a 4-point gap between themselves and 4th place. Nice to see Grimsby up in 3rd. They've obviously got a few of our former players. I think they've got 4, maybe 5 in their squad, which is ridiculous. But obviously Walsall so far the best team at home in League 2 so far this campaign. I think they were still up there come the end of last campaign. Obviously my team Bradford City were the best home team in the division last season, but great for Walsall. And even the away table, they're up in 5th as well, which is obviously very important. 3 wins from their opening 5 away matches. But you look at 17 goals scored, and it's actually the joint second least amount in the entire top 7, but they've only conceded 9 goals so far this campaign. That is the joint lowest in the entire division, with Oldham only 9 goals, only 2 teams left on single digits conceded so far this campaign. And again, it is an entirely new back 3 practically from last campaign. New goalkeeper. I think not having Tommy Simkim is a big problem. Not a big problem, it's the opposite. It's a big bonus. You look at Leyton Orient, they've conceded the most amount of goals in the entirety of League 1. Tommy Simkim at fault for a lot of them. I know last season Walsall fans loved Simkin because he was winding up the away fans or the opposition fans, all that sort of stuff. But now you look back and reflect, do you believe that Tommy Simkin was good enough to get you promoted? No, not for me. He cost you far too many goals last campaign. And knowing the second half of the season you were garbage, this is a new season. It's pretty much practically, I'm just going to keep using these words here, it's practically a new Walsall squad. They're going again. The question is this season, can they get over the line? Looking at this game, for example, between Accrington and Walsall, where the Saddlers came away from it with a 3-1 victory. Again, the underlying numbers, which we'll look at in a second, aren't the most impressive in the world. We look at them. 40% possession, 8 shots, 5 on target. For an away performance, it's not the greatest, but it's also not the end of the world. But again, it's about getting the job done. And Matt Sadler doesn't play the pretty style of football, but it's effective. It gets the job done. I would say it's a little bit like a Johnny Jackson style at Wimbledon. It's also a little bit like a Graham Alexander style at Bradford City, but I think he's combining it all. He's learned from his mistakes from last season, and that is the sign of a very good manager. Now, if Matt Sadler continues this run with Walsall, could he then get poached by a League 1 side? Obviously, the likes of Luton and Blackpool currently looking for managers at that level. But I think given what happened last season, a lot of clubs are going to be a little bit hesitant towards maybe pulling that trigger and trying to pay the compensation for Matt Sadler. And I think that will obviously work in their hands, as obviously they're sat top of the table. There's not going to be the question marks around his future. And 8 wins from your opening 11 matches, I don't think Walsall fans could have really asked for a much better start. I hold my hands up. So far, I have been proven wrong by the Saddlers. Yes, we're only 11 games in, but they currently sit, I think it's 19 points above the drop zone at this moment in time. I don't quite think maybe now they are going to go down. I'll hold my hands up. I've certainly got this one wrong. I back a lot of my football opinions. I always give my opinion. I never sit on the fence, and on this occasion, I have got it wrong. So I obviously got grilled for that one in the comments. There's still Walsall fans going back now and commenting on that video. We are still only 11 games in, so don't count your chickens before the hatch and all that sort of stuff. Up the chickens and all that, but I was clearly wrong on this one. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for another one.